You are now tuned into the Black Law Students Association of Canada's YouTube.
Welcome to the BLSA Canada Fireside Chat series. My name is Beatrice Rutayisire, and I am a Communications Committee member and 2L Law student at the McGill Faculty of Law. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Barbara Brown, a graduate and 2021 recipient of the Dean's Gold Key Award from Osgoode Hall Law School. During her JD program, Barbara has been actively involved with the Osgoode chapter of BLSA and has also served as president from the year 2020 to 2021. Now she is currently a judicial law clerk for the Honorable Justice Michael Tulloch at the Ontario Court of Appeal. And for those who are present, she has also appeared as a panelist for BLSA's national inaugural clerkship open house that we had last month, at which she spoke of her experience as a law clerk. We're really honored to have you again with us today, and thank you so much for joining us, Barbara.
No, thank you for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here.
Perfect. So just to get us started, I was hoping you can introduce yourself by telling us a little bit about your law school and career journey, as well as any research or fun facts that you wanted to share.
Yeah, so I started law school. It's not a path that I always saw for myself, but I think in my last year of my undergraduate degree, when I was studying criminology, I just had a lot of strong feelings about the criminal justice system and a feeling that I was kind of being called to do work in that area. And so I decided to go to law school. Wasn't really sure how it was going to work out for me. I was really just trying to come out alive with a law degree on the other side. But then I found that I really thrived in law school and I had such a great community around me, so many great people supporting me, particularly BLSA. That was the one group that really got me through the whole 3 years and encouraged me to become a more active part of the law school community. I don't think I would have done it without the support that I had from BLSA. And so, you know, everything that I've done, it's kind of been with that support and with just the goal in mind of helping more people come after me and to come into a better space than I did. And so, you know, I was equity officer for BLSA in my 2L year, and then I was president in my 3L year. And I just got to do so many different things in the role, you know, like creating the Africa Summit, where we're connecting internationally through Norton Rose Fulbright. That was a highlight of my time with BLSA. And yeah, that's pretty much me. Now I'm at the Court of Appeal, like Beatrice mentioned. And it's been a real honor, honestly, to see the justice system from this perspective. I'm learning that, you know, things aren't as black as white as I thought, and that, you know, in order to really push the system forward, we have to be making strategic decisions and looking at things critically. So I still have a lot more time here, and I'm excited to learn more, but yeah, I'd say that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Great. Well, thank you so much for just laying that out. I think it's a really great model for a lot of us who are currently in law school to emulate and see how we can make a difference, especially within the BLSAs at our schools and other ways as well. Another question that we had for you, being that you're a recent graduate, I'm sure you can probably relate to a lot of the struggles that current students are dealing with, including managing networking, deadlines, applications, etc., all the things that a law student is dealing with. Can you speak to how you manage your time in law school and prioritize the items that were most important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, honestly. I mean, it's really nice to be out. I'm totally forgetting that, you know, at the time that we're recording this, it's exam season. But I think in law school, for me, what was most important was creating a very clear plan for what I was going to do. So at the, you know, as we're coming up on the end of the semester, I would always kind of create a summary of what are all the readings I need to get done and what are all the lectures I need to listen to or re-listen to, and kind of set goals for myself of like, on this day, I'm gonna get these things done, on this day, I'm gonna get these things done. And part of it was just helpful for me to see and visualize what I had to do all in one place, because I think when it's just in your head, it can become very overwhelming. So putting it down on paper made me realize that it was feasible to sometimes learn a whole semester in 2 weeks. but it also just gave me the satisfaction of being able to check items off my list, which is a really satisfying feeling, especially, once you're grinding through end of the semester studying. Having those little milestones does make a really big difference. And so that was the most important, was having a comprehensive end of semester plan in place. And in terms of how I managed my time throughout the semester, I had an agenda that I was pretty diligent in documenting, like everything that needed to be done, whether there were applications that needed to be submitted, whether I was just grabbing a coffee with someone, if there was a particular reading or assignment I wanted to get done that day. And I think you can make journaling or keeping an agenda very creative. I designed all of my planners so that they were very unique to me. They're personalized to me. They had exactly the kind of format I needed. And that made it also a little bit more enjoyable to organize my time. But just writing things down in advance, I think, helps to keep me on track and organized.
Great. Well, those are really great tips and something that I'm trying to implement myself as I go through exams this semester. Hopefully it'll get me through. So now we'll move to your clerkship. And as we all know, clerkships can be very competitive, particularly at the appellate level, which you are at, and particularly, I'm sure, in Ontario, which is a big province. Could you tell us at what point you decided to pursue clerking and what made you stand out, or what you feel made you stand out as an applicant?
Yeah, so I decided to clerk early on in my 2L year. The opportunity was kind of presented to me, and I was like, what is a clerkship? Like, I've never heard of this thing. And I asked my roommate, who was another BLSA member, and she explained it to me. She's like, I think we'd be great for it. There's not a lot of Black law students that either apply for or get clerkships, but you should try it out. And so I said, okay, let's do this. And I was, going to information sessions, and it seemed really interesting because, you're on the other side of things. You're seeing it play out. It's the do or die of the case or the appeal. And I found that really exciting. I was really lucky also to have the support of Joshua Seeley Harrington to kind of coach me through, applications and what they're looking for, how to do a good interview. And so again, there was like that wholesome mentorship there, because I definitely would have submitted a totally different resume and cover letter, would have gone into the interview with a different mindset if it weren't for him. And so I'm so grateful for all the help that he gave me. But yeah, I think in general, it was wanting to get that different perspective of how cases get litigated, but also wanting to have more representation of clerks in the courts. And in terms of what I think made my application stand out, honestly, I was myself. And I know that's super cliche and sometimes is not very helpful as advice, but like, for example, my writing sample was a piece on race and racism and how I felt the courts were not doing a proper analysis of race. And as I was putting together my materials, I was thinking, maybe this is a little bit too spicy to send in for application. Like, I don't know if this is really like the vibe they're going for. And I was like, well, this is me. Like, they can either take it or leave it. But I really put who I was into my application, and tried not to be too worried about whether it was like a correct type of application. And so I think that gave me an edge in my interview. They were definitely very interested in my writing sample. And I tried to let that come out in terms of the other more interesting experiences I've had in law school. So I think if there's anyone who's considering a clerkship, my best advice is to be yourself, because that's going to help you stand out. Because like you said, there are so many applications that they get, and they are really looking for unique personalities.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I guess if I can maybe summarize what I'm getting from you, it seems like when you're planning for the clerkship, it's really important, obviously, like preparation, hopefully drawing on mentors if you have those who can guide you through, and really being authentic to who you are. So I think those are all really great points, especially for Black applicants who might be a little concerned about how to really present that in an application. So thank you for that. And it kind of rolls into our next question, actually. We had spoke about this topic a little bit at the clerkship open house, but for the benefit of viewers who might not have been present, I'll repeat it. We were talking about representation of Black people at all levels of the law, and we know there's still significant deficits in the legal industry, and particularly in the court system. In your opinion, what is the significance of seeing more Black people as law clerks, litigators, and judges? And what impact do you see it having on the development of the law itself?
I think when you have more Black people in the legal profession, I think it helps us to understand and really feel the reality that the law is not just something that, white people are thinking about and talking about, but it's something that affects real people, and I think it's important as a Black legal professional to bring that perspective wherever you have it and wherever it fits. As a Black clerk, as the only Black clerk at the Court of Appeal, if there are issues that involve race or racism, I want to be someone who's available to lend my expertise or my opinion because I know that I have a unique perspective. And that doesn't mean that it's your job to do that or that you're obliged to do that. But I think it's an advantage that we do have over people who aren't Black or people who aren't racialized. And in terms of its impact on the development of the law, I think it really helps the law to try to self-correct from some of the wrong approaches and wrong conclusions it's come to before. I think, as a Black law clerk, you have a lot of power because you are collaborating with your judge a lot and you're able to, present the issues in a way that maybe they haven't considered it because they just don't have that perspective. And that could be a perspective of being a Black person, but it could also just be a perspective of someone who experiences the world differently, who doesn't take for granted the things that maybe a white judge would take for granted. And so I think it creates a law that is more human, that's more diverse, that's more tailored and sensitive and responsive to how people actually live in the world. Because we know that white privilege means that a lot of the times, white judges are accepted from a lot of the realities that other people face, by virtue of being both white and occupying a prestigious position. And so I think it's an opportunity for Black law students to use their voice, to practice using their voice in what's a safe space, but what is also a very, very impactful space, especially when you're at the appellate level.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And going off of that topic as well, more broadly, how can law schools and organizations like BLSA Canada address or reduce systemic barriers to accessing those professions or those spaces?
I think for both law schools and organizations like BLSA, like the outreach piece is critical, Like I said, for me, what's been so important throughout my journey in law school and being at the court now is the mentorship and support I had from other Black legal professionals. And so I think, it's important for law schools to be thinking about how do we reach out to students who are Black, who are racialized. And one thing that Osgood is putting in place is a program called Raising the Black Bar, where they're reaching out to high school students in grade 10 and 11 when, it becomes really important for them to start thinking about whether law is a career they want so they can get into the right courses to get into university and eventually into law school. But those kind of programs, I think, help make it a reality for Black students at a young age that this is something that they can do, that people are going before them and are making a way for them to do this as well. And BLSA Canada, I think, plays a similar role, but the mentorship piece is even more important in that regard. And so I love that BLSA Canada has such a strong culture of mentorship and a commitment to mentorship, because without it, we're just really not a community. We're all just individual people trying to make our way through this very crazy profession. But I think, just making ourselves available, innovating in new ways to reach people where they are is what's really going to increase the numbers. And whatever advocacy BLSA Canada can do with law schools to come up with those ideas, to look at their admission practices. I think is ultimately going to be a benefit to Black people in Canada.
Thank you. And that's so important too. Even just the fact that we were able to connect has all been through BLSA Canada and its initiatives. So it really shows just how much you can really bridge the gaps, between law schools, between Black applicants, students, and everything. And so I completely agree with everything you just said. So we're almost wrapping up, actually. That's gone really fast. But I'd love to give you the final word to say anything to our students that you want them to know and take to heart. And by anything, it could literally be anything. The floor is yours to speak to them. And whether it's advice or a quote or anything that you thought got you through law school, we would love to hear it.
So I have to come back to the community piece, and I feel like I might be kind of beating a dead horse, but honestly, and like I mean this with all of my heart, the BLSA community at Osgoode nationwide is what got me through law school. It's what made me choose Osgoode. It's what got me involved in extracurriculars, showed me how to put in those applications, how to network, just gave me social support when I was going through it during exams and I needed someone to vent with. I don't know what I would have done without my BLSA community. And I think it's so important. Like, what I would say to anyone who's watching is find your people, like whether they're part of BLSA, whether they're not part of BLSA or mix, find someone or some people who are going to just support you, who are not going to be trying to compete with you, who understand that there is enough to go around and just want to help you get to wherever you're trying to go, whether that means strategic connections or just support, and offer that same support to other people. Don't be afraid to collaborate with others, to see this as a partnership that you're building with your fellow BLSA schoolmates or whatever your schoolmates are. But just, I think it's important not to get lost in wanting to do well for yourself and forgetting that there are all these other people who can take you farther than you can take yourself. So that's my advice. I will always root for BLSA. I will always encourage people to be involved in BLSA because really for me, it was everything.
Absolutely. Community is definitely one of the most important things, I think, especially that BLSA tries to create and hopefully continues to do so. But thank you so much. That was our last question. So I just want to thank you again for joining us today. And it was great to hear from you and really just hear more about your career, your journey in community service. We know that law students will benefit so much from it. And so thank you once again. And hopefully we can hear from you more later on.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. And I just want to say, if anyone ever wants to chat, I'm always here available by email or Facebook, whatever. But I'd love to help people, figure out what is going to work for them. So happy to connect with anybody.
Perfect. Thanks so much.